Shalom, brothers and sisters. Grace be unto you and peace from Yahuwah the Father and Yahusha the Messiah, his Son. This is Brother David coming to you again to bring you Forgeries in the Bible. We're reading from Romans chapter 10. Our text is verse 9, and this is part 5. Now we learned from part 4 that you have to call upon the name of Yahuwah, the name that has been hidden from generation to generation, but it has been revealed in these last days. In the Old Testament, it was wiped out over 7,000 times and replaced with capital Lord. We know this now. We didn't have a deliverer. We did not have a savior because we were busy calling on Jesus, Lord, God, and every other name that we can think of except for the name of the Father. When you read Proverbs chapter 30, it asks a question. It asks multiple questions. Can you tell what the Father's name is and what his Son's name? It is telling you in a prophetic manner that it would be hidden from us. But in these last days, it has been revealed. Now, once you call upon the name of Yahuwah, there shall be deliverance. If you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, there is no deliverance. When you follow the rules that I've taught you, you have to be able to find this name Jesus in the Old Testament. You will never find this name Jesus in the Old Testament, brothers and sisters. It is impossible. But you will find the name of Yahusha in the Old Testament over 216 times. That should tell you something alone. So when you follow these rules, you can't be fooled. Here's another rule that this text has failed. Out of the mouth of 2 and 3 witnesses shall every word be established. We can't find this statement in the Old Testament at all. Here's another one. You cannot find this statement again even in the New Testament. What statement is that? If thou shalt confess with thy mouth the Lord Jesus, and believe in thine heart that God hath raised him from the dead, you will be saved. Now, because of Paul, because he has given us a roadmap, because he has taken us back to the Old Testament to see exactly what he was talking about, we're not dealing with the European thinking anymore. We're dealing with the apostles. The apostle is telling you exactly what he was saying when he wrote this letter by telling you to go back to all of these different passages to check them out. Once you do that, you find all of the witnesses that you need. But this statement in Romans 10, verse 9, there is no witness. It has failed 2 tests already, brothers and sisters. We were told to go line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. We've done that. All of the references that takes us back to the Old Testament. It never speaks of Jesus. It never speaks of this confession and believing in your heart that God raised him from the dead and that you'll be saved. It does not exist. That means it was a total replacement. Now, if you follow these rules, brothers and sisters, you can uncover all of this foolishness. This is why the Father has commanded me to teach you how to do this. Let's continue with our lesson. Romans chapter 10. We're reading from verse 16. Verse 16. But they have not all obeyed the gospel. For Isaiah saith, Lord, who hath believed our report? Here we go again. Right away, Paul tells you go back to Isaiah and see what this report is all about. But before we go there, brothers and sisters, I want you to see something. You see how they've changed the name of Isaiah? They put a E-S-A-I-A-S. That is to trick you, so that you would not know where to go back to look at this. This next passage that you are about to see, who have believed our report, is strictly about your Messiah. It tells you who he is, why he's come, and what he has come to do. Isaiah chapter 53, verses 1 to 4. Who hath believed our report? You see how Isaiah starts out? Perfect witness to what you just saw in Romans chapter 10, verse 16. And to whom is the arm of Yahuwah revealed? You know who the arm of Yahuwah is. You know who his voice is. You know who is the one that you must cleave to. Yahusha, the Messiah. Verse 2. It's going to give you an explanation here. For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant, and as a root out of dry ground. He hath no form nor comeliness. And when we shall see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him. You see that statement, it says, when we shall see him. We should not be trying to make images of him now. It is dangerous for the Israelites because they tend to bow down and worship it. So once you start seeing these images of this so-called Messiah that they put on the internet and they have plastered all over the place, please do not do that. The Father hates that behavior. Verse 3, he is despised and rejected of men. Oh, yes, he was. Isn't that just like you? Every time you went to present this good news to your brothers and your sisters, instead of it having the effect that you were looking for, they've despised you instead, and they reject you. A man of sorrows, and acquainted with grief, just like us. And we, that's a pronoun, describes a person, place, or thing. Who is this pronoun describing? Well, we haven't gotten to it yet, but it's speaking of the children of Israel. If you go back to 52 and 51, you'll see the context and you'll know that he's only talking about the children of Israel. But we know who it is because our people are so stiff-necked. We're constantly dropping the ball. A man of sorrows and acquainted with grief, and we hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Verse 4. Surely he hath borne our griefs, and carried our sorrows. Yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of the mighty one, and afflicted. Who's the one who smote him? The mighty one. Who's the one who afflicted him? The mighty one. Who put all of our griefs and sorrows upon him? The mighty one. Verse 5. But he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. Let's stop here for a second. The church uses this passage, Isaiah chapter 53, verse 5, to say that you have bodily healing because of what the Messiah has done. But look at this. Let's pay attention to exactly what it's saying. He was wounded for our transgressions, not for your sicknesses, for your transgressions of the law. He was bruised for our iniquities, for the guilt that comes from that transgression of the law. The chastisement of our peace was upon him. What peace is that? He came to bring peace between the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. He came to end the hatred that was between Judah and Israel. And with his stripes we are healed. What is this? This is not a physical healing, brothers and sisters. This is a spiritual healing. But look at what it says. Our transgressions, our iniquities, our peace. That word our is a possessive pronoun. It describes a person, place, or thing. We're in the book of Isaiah. The only people that he speaks of, he never speaks about a church. He never speaks about any other people but the children of Israel. He is the prophet of Israel only, brothers and sisters. So this our only pertains to the children of Israel. No one else can claim this. He did not die for anyone else. This is why it's important to come back and check out these passages. Verse 6, all we like sheep have gone astray. Yes, we have. We're in the church worshiping Jesus. We have turned every one to his own way. That's right. We have dismissed with the righteousness of the mighty one, and we have created our own righteousness. And Yahuwah have laid on him the iniquity of us all. All of our shame, all of our guilt was laid upon the Messiah. Verse 7, he was oppressed, just like us. He was afflicted, just like us. Yet he opened not his mouth. Not like us. Because if they came to arrest us, we're going to make some noise. It was not me. No, I did not do it. Let me go. I'm calling my lawyer. He is brought as a lamb to the slaughter. This is what I want you to see. Paul wanted you to come back to Isaiah chapter 53 so you would know exactly what his purpose was. He was the lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before her shearers is dumb, so he openeth not his mouth. Verse 8, he was taken from prison and from judgment. And who shall declare his generation? For he was cut off out of the land of the living. For the transgression of my people was he stricken. Now, we've narrowed it down to who he's talking about. The children of Israel. He didn't say the world. Where did this world come in? The Europeans placed it there. They wanted to line up with their God, Jesus Christ, or Jesus Krishna. Verse 9, and he made his grave with the wicked and with the rich in his death, because he had done no violence, neither was any deceit in his mouth. And that's true. He had the two criminals that were killed with him, and he was laid in a rich man's tomb. Verse 10, yet it pleased Yahuwah to bruise him. Who did it please? His father? His father was pleased to bruise him? Why? He hath put on him to grief, when thou shalt make his soul an offering for sin. He bruised him so that he can be an offering for sin for you and for me, not for them. He shall see his seed. He shall prolong his days, and the pleasure of Yahuwah shall prosper in his hand. So what I want you to remember from verse 10 is that he is that offering for sin. And remember before that he was the lamb for the slaughter. Verse 11, he shall see of the travail of his soul, and shall be satisfied. By his knowledge shall my righteous servant justify many. Not by any spiritual stuff, brothers and sisters, not by shaking and shivering and speaking in tongues. The only thing that he came to bring was knowledge. This is how you justify his servants. This is why I'm trying to teach you, brothers and sisters, how to obtain this knowledge. With this knowledge, there is power. For he shall bear their iniquities. He shall bear their shame. Verse 12. Therefore will I divide him a portion with the great, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he hath poured out his soul unto death. Would you have done that for a stiff-necked, unruly people? Denied you, rejected you, despised you, and yet he poured out his soul unto death for these stiff-necked people. He was their offering for sin, and he was numbered with the transgressors. And he bare the sin, the transgressions of the law, of many, not everyone, because everyone is not going to receive him, and made intercession for the transgressors. So you see, brothers and sisters, Isaiah chapter 53, it tells you exactly who the Messiah is, why he's come, and what he's come to do. He is that lamb for the slaughter, and he is the offering for sin. Once you return back to Romans chapter 10, we're going to take up where we left off, verse 17. How do you like this, brothers and sisters? You see how all of this information is right here, accessible for you? We have computers today. It doesn't take long to do this. Our ancestors, they would have had to go and read probably whole chapters. Read the whole the whole book of Isaiah, just to get to the part where it says, "Who have believed our report." But because we have computers today, we can type in just "who have believed our report," Old Testament, and you will find it in the New Testament in a couple of seconds. Verse 17. So then faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of the mighty one. So faith has a duality, brothers and sisters. Remember, you have to hear it, and then you have to do it. That's what faith is. Remember, Abraham's faith was imputed unto him to righteousness. Why? Because he heard the word of the Father, and then he carried it out. Here is telling you the same thing. Faith cometh by hearing. You see the word highlighted in hearing, hear it, and then you have to do it. Do what, Brother David? The word of the mighty one. Verse 18. But I say, have they not heard? Yes, verily, their sound went into all the earth, and their words unto the ends of the world. What is it that they have not heard? Didn't they hear something? What is it that the children of Israel heard? Verse 19. But I say, did not Israel know? First Moses saith, I will provoke you to jealousy by them that are no people, and by a foolish nation I will anger you. Hey, brothers and sisters, Paul is doing it again. He says, go back and check out where Moses said, where Moses said this, that he'll provoke you to jealousy by them that are no people. When you go to Deuteronomy chapter 32, we're going to start at 20 and 21. It would be prudent for you to read the whole Deuteronomy 32. Read the whole chapter so that you can have context. But so that I can shorten the video and get through this, I'm just going to give you the places where Moses said it. Verse 20. And he said, I will hide my face from them. Who was he talking about? The children of Israel. Why, Brother David? Because they refuse to keep his commandments. I will see what their end shall be, for they are a very froward generation, stiff-necked, unruly. They do not follow instructions. Doesn't that sound familiar? Children in whom is no faith. You see how the Father calls them children? The same way your children are when you tell them to clean their room, wash the dishes, do their homework, stop doing this, do that, and the child does not listen. It is the same way you do to the mighty one. No wonder your children are unruly. Verse 21. They have moved me to jealousy with that which is not God. They have provoked me to anger with their vanities, and I will move them to jealousy with those which are not a people. I will provoke them to anger with a foolish nation. So you see what the prerequisite was before he came to provoking us to jealousy. It's because we refuse to do what he says. We have no faith. We don't hear, nor do we do. We are stiff-necked, unruly people who do not follow instructions. We have moved the Father to jealousy. We provoked him to anger, brothers and sisters. And he says, I'm going to turn this recompense upon your head. I am going to provoke you to jealousy with those which are not a people, and I will provoke them to anger with a foolish nation. Merriam-Webster, people. One, plural, human beings. He says there are no people. So what is he trying to say here? That they're not human beings? Making up a group or assembly or linked by a common interest. So he's saying that these people who are not a people, they're linked together by a common interest. Do you know any place that's like that? Let's look at the United States of America. You have a people that have come from all over the world, different ethnicities, and they've come here to make up this country. But there is a ruling class here, and they are the Europeans. They have white skin. They are ruling. They are in charge of everything. Now, all of the people who have come after them, all of the different ethnic groups, they've assembled themselves in this country with one common interest. I wonder if you know what that common interest is. It is to hate us, to keep us down, brothers and sisters. Everyone in the world hates us. This United States of America, where you have all of these different people, this rainbow coalition, as they call it, there's one thing that all of them have in common. They hate us. But the people that are ruling is the ones that he is talking about. He says that they are no people. Here we find out that people means human beings. So is he saying that they are not human beings? Look at 2. Human beings or persons. Here we go again. So if you're a people, you have to be human beings. He's saying that they are no people, often used in compounds instead of persons, sales, people, often used attributively, people, skills. 3, plural, the members of a family or kinship. Hey, there's only 3 families that's on the earth: Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Ham, Shem, and Japheth. There's no one else. Where did these Europeans come from? Where did these white folks come from? How was there people up in the north? And there was only 3 people, 3 brothers that came out of the ark. He says, I'm going to provoke you to jealousy by them that are no people. They're not humans, he's saying. He's telling you that they're not members of a family or kinship. That's what he's telling you here, brothers and sisters. We have to be careful. We are surrounded by our enemies. Paul is giving us clues. The Messiah has told us this. The Old Testament has told us this. Enoch has told us this. I mean, we can go on and on and on by how many times we know that these people are not fully human. And if they're not fully human, they're not human at all. We have this problem here. We don't want to believe what we're surrounded by. The Messiah says, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be when the coming of the Son of Man. When the Messiah returns, the same thing that happened in the days of Noah shall be going on today. Who was ruling in the days of Noah? The seed of the fallen angels. Didn't Enoch, in the book of Enoch, didn't Lamech describe them perfectly? They were white as snow, red as a rose. Their hair is long and glorious. We know what they look like. Why do you think they took the book of Enoch out of your Bible and said it has no validity? Because it exposes them. Here, Paul is exposing them again. He wanted you to go back to the Old Testament, back to Deuteronomy, and see this so that you would know who has you captive. Verse 18, but I say, have they not heard? Now we know that they heard, right? Because Moses told them that I'm going to provoke you to jealousy by those that are no people, and by a foolish nation I will anger you. Is this the foolish nation that he's talking about? When you look on television, don't you see how foolish this place is? Everything that they do is evil. The works of their hands is evil. Just look at the way that this country is set up. It's set up that the only way that it flows is that you have to go into debt. You are merchandise. Foolish people, brothers and sisters. You should be provoked to jealousy. You should be ruling the world in righteousness. You should be showing these people how to live. But look what's happening. We're on the bottom. They're on the top. But once you turn back to Yahuwah, if you remember what it said in Deuteronomy chapter 30, once you keep his commandments and love the mighty one with all thy heart and all of thy mind and all of thy soul, he said he's going to turn all these curses back on your enemies. Verse 20. But Isaiah is very bold, and saith, I was found of them that sought me not. I was made manifest unto them that asked not after me. Here we go again. Paul is saying, go back and check out Isaiah, where he was bold when he said, I was found of them that sought me not. Isaiah chapter 65. Verse 1-5. Isn't this magnificent, brothers and sisters? I don't know. This stuff turns me totally on. I mean, I just get excited when I see the scripture open up like this. I don't know if it's the same for you, but when it comes to me, this is exciting. This is better than any enjoyment, sports, all of that stuff. This is garbage compared to this. This is the real thing, brothers and sisters. The Father is revealing himself to us. Verse 1, I am sought of them that ask not for me. See how it starts out? I am found of them that sought me not. I said, behold me unto a nation that was not called by my name. He's not talking about the children of Israel here. He's talking about another nation that he has opened himself up to, and they received him. Now, some people will say that this is the Jews, right? It's not the Jews, because they did not receive him. The church worships these Jews. They think that they should give their resources to those fake Jews over there. Those people do not even believe in the testimony of the Messiah. Can you be saved without the testimony of the Messiah? Can you be saved or delivered without his sacrifice? If he is not the lamb that was for the slaughter for you, if he was not your sin offering for you, can you be saved? Remember, the temple has been destroyed. There is no more sacrifice anymore. So how do they atone for their sins? But yet the church sends them money and thinks of them as the true children of the Mighty One, when they don't fit any of the criteria. But here, if it's not those Jews, who is it? I can tell you who I think it is. I think it's the Ethiopians. Why do I say that? Because they have taken on the laws, the statutes, and commandments and applied it to their lives. They have the testimony of our Messiah. They even call him by his name. Here's another thing why I say it's them. Do you remember in the New Testament, the Ethiopian eunuch that came before Philip? He was riding in his chariot. Philip seen him. He told him about the coming of the Messiah. He told him he needed to be baptized. The Ethiopian eunuch says, hey, here's water. Baptize me now. Why can't we do this right away? When he went back to his country, he took this good news back to his people. They embraced it and they ran with it. That's why I say it's the Ethiopians. It's the only people. He's not going to stretch forth his hand to those who are not a people. He's going to do it to those who are a people. And remember, he said that we are aren't we likened unto or look like those who are the children of Ethiopia? That's what he has said. Verse 2, I have spread out my hands all the day unto a rebellious people. That's us. Now he's talking about us. See, the other people weren't called by his name. They weren't called by Yazrael. He said he spread out his hand to these stiff-necked, rebellious people, which walketh in a way that's not good, after their own thoughts. Isn't that us? Isn't that the church? Verse 3. A people that provoketh me to anger continually to my face, that sacrifice in gardens, and burneth incense upon altars of brick. Verse 4. Which remain among the graves, and lodge in the monuments, which eat swine's flesh and broth of abominable things in their vessels. He hates this behavior. The church loves pork. They tell you that because Jesus died and he abolished the law, you can eat all the pig and shellfish and abominable things that you want to eat. But look at what it says in verse 5, which say, stand by thyself. This is what the people who eat swine's flesh and the abominable things in the vessels, listen what they say. Stand by thyself. Come not near to me, for I am holier than thou. How can they be holier than us if we're keeping the law, statutes, and commandments? We have the testimony of the Messiah. We love the Father with all our heart, mind, and soul. We're calling upon the name of Yahuwah. How can they be holier than us? Because Jesus died and he's taken away their sins. Ha shatabayababa ha. You see the stupidity of their thinking. Listen what the Father says about this behavior. These are a smoke in my nose. You know how irritating that is? To have smoke coming up in your nose? A fire that burneth all the day. Oh my. All day long. He cannot get away from the evil that our people are committing, brothers and sisters. Verse 8. Thus saith Yahuwah, as the new wine is found in the cluster, and one saith, don't you destroy it, for a blessing is in it. You know what that new wine is, brothers and sisters? That is us. Not that old wine, the one that transgresses the law, stiff-necked, unruly people. He's talking about this new wine, us, the ones who are seeking him with our heart, our mind, our soul, that are applying these commandments to our lives. We've taken on the name of Yisrael. We've embraced his Messiah. We've obeyed the voice. So will I do for my servants' sakes, that I may not destroy them all. He has prepared us, this remnant, in these last days. We are just waking up now. He has prepared us, this remnant, in this last days, to speak for him. Verse 9, and I will bring forth a seed out of Jacob, and out of Judah an inheritor of my mountains. He's talking about our Messiah. That seed that he's going to bring out of Jacob and out of Judah, the one who's going to inherit the mountains, and mine elect shall inherit it. We shall be joined with him. He shall rule over us, and we shall inherit the whole thing, brothers and sisters. And my servants shall dwell there. Did he say the world's going to dwell there? Did he say the Europeans, the Africans, and the Asians? No. He says we shall dwell there, brothers and sisters. So once you come back to Romans chapter 10, we're going to take up on 21. But as you see, Paul wanted you to go back to see Isaiah so that you can see this. He's been stretching forth his hands all day long to these stiff-necked and obedient people. Look at 21. But to Israel, okay, stop 1 second. Romans chapter 10 verse 1 starts out with Paul praying for Israel. Verse 19 here tells you, didn't Israel know this about these people that are really not a people? And then he tells you in verse 21, he says, but Israel, he said, all day long have I stretched forth my hands unto a disobedient and gainsaying people. Do you know that word gainsaying? You know what it is? Someone who is always like to dispute. They don't believe anything you say. They're always bringing up some type of argument. When you go to the church and you tell them that, listen, after you've accepted the Messiah, you still have to keep his commandments. They say, oh, no, you don't. By grace you are saved through faith. It is a gift of the mighty one, lest anyone should boast. And then I say to them, well, what about the rest of it? He says, should you set aside the law because you are saved by grace? He says, no, God forbid. Why do they leave out the rest of the statement and only take half? Because they are a disobedient and gainsaying people. You cannot be that way, brothers and sisters. But before you embrace anything that you hear, you have to go and check it out. Just what we're doing right now, this is checking it out. Do you know how long this makes my videos just showing you this? I had to do 4 parts just to get through this so that you can see the truth, brothers and sisters. This is how you study. The Father wanted me to teach you this. Don't lose it. This is your power to overcome the stumbling blocks that the Europeans have placed in your Bible. Now we're going to go to our conclusion, continue to part 6.